Here are the top stories for today, February 11, 2021. President Duterte has ordered the postponement of the mandatory use of child restraint system. Quarantine restrictions in the country will remain even after COVID-19 vaccines arrive. A councilor in General Santos City is pushing for the mandatory dashcam on all public and private vehicles. And the Games and Amusement Board is pushing for the reinstatement of Manny Pacquiao as welterweight champion. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top news for the day, President Rodrigo Duterte has ordered the postponement of the implementation of Republic Act 11229 or the Child Safety in Motor Vehicles Act. The law requires the use of child restraint systems or CRS among children 12 years of age and below with a height of 4 feet 11 inches and below.
Nagdesisyon na po ang ating presidente. Ipinagpaliban po or deferred ang pagpapatupad o implementasyon ng child car seats. Samantala, hindi na po mandatory ang MVIS. Ibig sabihin, kinakailangan wala pong bagong singil, walang karagdagang singil para sa pagpaparehistro ng mga sasakyan. Ito po ang naging desisyon ng presidente kung saan binalanse ng Pangulo ang pinagdadaanan ng ating mga kababayan sa gitna ng krisis na nakakaranas ng nararanasan hindi lang po ng Pilipinas, kung hindi ang buong mundo.
Malacanang said quarantine classifications in the country will not be immediately eased even after the rollout of COVID-19 vaccination drive. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles said the government will only do so if the country sees a significant decrease in the number of cases. Nograles expressed confidence that COVID-19 cases will decrease once the vaccination drive starts. He also warned the public against the purchase of fake COVID-19 vaccines. Currently, Metro Manila, Batangas, Tacloban City, Davao City, Davao del Norte, Lanao del Sur, and Iligan City are under General Community Quarantine Status or GCQ for the entire month of February. The Cordillera Administrative Region is also under GCQ until the end of the month, as most of the UK variant cases in the country are recorded in the northern region. The rest of the country is under modified GCQ. President Rodrigo Duterte expressed readiness to work with the European Union as he accepted the credentials of newly installed EU Ambassador to the Philippines, Luc Veron, in a speech in Malacanang Palace. Duterte emphasized the need to continue to reinforce Philippine-EU ties in face of new challenges and opportunities.
The Philippines and the EU share a deep respect for democracy and the rule of law. This will serve as a solid foundation for robust cooperation on the basis of mutual trust, respect, and benefit. We wish to partner with the EU to protect and promote all rights of all, especially the human rights of migrant workers. We are also ready to further enhance cooperation on climate change and the humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. The Philippines is ready to work constructively with the EU for the greater good of our peoples.
Meanwhile, Ambassador Veron expressed readiness to have a productive political relationship with the Philippine government and support the country in our fight against COVID-19 pandemic.
The EU is willing to have a productive political relationship with the Philippine government, notably to support the Philippines in its effort to overcome the COVID-19 crisis and its effort to restart its economy. The EU and its member states will continue their efforts to contribute to the international response to the pandemic, including by guaranteeing affordable and fair access to vaccines for all.
Aside from EU, President Duterte also accepted the credentials of 4 other envoys. Brazilian Ambassador to the Philippines, Antonio Jose Maria de Sousa y Silva, South Korean Ambassador to the Philippines, Kim In-chul, French ambassador to the Philippines, Michelle Bocas, and Colombian ambassador to the Philippines, Marcela Ordonez. The Australian Embassy in Manila is willing to assist the Philippine government in its COVID-19 inoculation program. The commitment was made last week during a meeting among Australian Ambassador Stephen Robinson, Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr., Health Secretary Francisco Duque, and Testing Czar Secretary Vince Dizon. In a tweet, Robinson said Australia will help ensure COVID-19 vaccines are distributed efficiently. He said Australia has redirected its 2020 development assistance programs to reinforce the Philippine pandemic response. Australia has already donated 35 million pesos worth of medical supplies to the armed forces of the Philippines to support the military's COVID-19 response. Preparations are underway for the arrival of COVID-19 vaccines in different parts of the country. The details from Leigh Cabagani.
Manila City is now ready for the arrival of vaccines as it now completed its storage facility that can store Pfizer vaccine at -70 degrees. The city government now has a total of 12 COVID-19 ultra-low temperature refrigeration units. The last 3 freezers were delivered on Tuesday at the Santa Ana Hospital where the city's vaccine storage facility is located. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Domagoso said the city now can meet all types of required temperatures for the proper storage of the COVID-19 vaccines. In San Juan City, a house-to-house vaccine campaign was launched to assist residents to sign up on the spot to the city's online vaccine registration drive. The city government also started running simulations as part of its citywide COVID-19 vaccination campaign. San Juan City has 18 freezers. 16 of these are capable of storing vaccines that require 2 to 8 degrees Celsius temperature, while the rest are ultra-cold freezers that can accommodate Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccines. Mayor Francis Zamora said they are targeting to inoculate at least 70% of the city's estimated 85,000 population to achieve herd immunity. He also volunteered to be the first to be vaccinated in the city. In Valenzuela City, the local government extended their videoke ban in consideration of the college students who are yet to finish their online classes at night. Under the ordinance, the residents are prohibited to use videoke machines and other similar devices from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. The ban has now been extended to 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily. It also prohibits the use of stereo karaoke, cassette, radio players, sound amplifying equipment, and similar musical devices in all residential and socialized housing areas. In Davao City, a simulation was held to determine the local government's readiness in handling the COVID-19 vaccines. The simulation started with the vaccines arriving at the Davao International Airport, followed by transport, acceptance, and storage at the Southern Philippines Medical Center or SPMC. The 5,000 doses of vaccine stored inside the SPMC's Metrobank Foundation Molecular Laboratory would then be inspected by the Food and Drug Administration, the Department of Health, and the SPMC management. Dr. Raquel Montejo, Operation Chiefs of the COVID-19 vaccination program in Davao Region, said the simulation would test and review the regional task force local plans. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Leigh Cabagani.
The Bureau of Customs assures the immediate release of COVID-19 vaccines once its shipments arrive. Customs Commissioner Ray Leonardo Guerrero said the Bureau has already activated a one-stop shop to handle it. Health officials and other stakeholders earlier held a simulation activities in preparation for the arrival of the vaccines. Guerrero said it went very well. He also said that the BOC personnel will only process the documents as they are not authorized to physically handle the jabs. Still to come, the Chinese community in Binondo marks their traditional ringing of the gong to symbolize the start of Chinese New Year. And a councilor in General Santos City is pushing for the mandatory dashcam on all public and private vehicles. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The Chinese community in Manila marks the start of the Chinese New Year with their traditional ringing of the gong, led by Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso. He earlier signed executive order canceling all Chinese New Year activities from February 11 to 17. There will be no street party, stage show, parade, street games, or other similar activities for this year. Even dragon dances, which are among the highlights of the festival since ancient times, are banned to prevent huge crowds. Serving or drinking of alcoholic beverages of any kind within the city shall also be strictly implemented. Motorcycle owners can now send their concerns and grievances on poor and unlawful services of the Land Transportation Office via online. The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee launched the online complaint desk to encourage the public to report incidents and crimes involving the use of motorcycle vehicles. Senator Richard Gordon, chair of the committee, said they came up with the idea of putting up a complaint center following their investigation on the LTO's non-implementation of Public Republic Act number 11235. Gordon mentioned the 18 million backlog on the release of motorcycle plates, as well as the numerous killing incidents perpetrated by motorcycle riding gunmen. He said LTO is allowing the dealers to collect the installment money without giving the buyer the ownership documents, which enables the dealers to resell the motorcycles as demonstration units. Those who have grievances may submit their complaints by filing up the form at www.lingkodgordon.com. In General Santos City, the local government is planning to tap motorists as roving eyes on the streets to enhance public safety and security. This is by requiring motorists to install dashboard cameras in private and public utility vehicles. City Councilor Vivencio Dinopol said the presence of the dash cams could deter the occurrence of various traffic violations and help counter the movement of criminal elements. He said many crimes remained unsolved due to the lack of witnesses and available video footages. The City Council will hold a series of consultations to get the pulse and recommendations from the public regarding the said measure. The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, vowed relentless efforts to achieve its goal of freeing over 600,000 children from child labor by next year. Karen Trivilla, director of the DOLE's Bureau of Workers with Special Concerns, said they hope to achieve the target with the signing of Executive Order 92. At the same time, Trivilla reported that of the number, they have profiled over 260,000 child laborers from 2018 to 2020, while over 56,000 children have been freed from child labor. Signed by President Rodrigo Duterte in September 2019, Executive Order 92 provides for the creation of the National Council Against Child Labor aimed at the prevention, reduction, and elimination of child labor. EO 92 directs the Council to effectively enforce Republic Act 7610, or the Special Protection of Children Against Abuses, Exploitation, and Discrimination Act. A lawmaker has urged President Rodrigo Duterte to certify as urgent the 420 billion peso Bayanihan 3 bill to boost the country's COVID-19 economic recovery. Marikina City Representative Stella Luz Kimbo said House Bill 8628 would be the third installment of the government's response to the pandemic and its impact on the economy. Kimbo, author of the bill along with Speaker Lord Alan Velasco, said the government needs to infuse a substantial amount into the economy to prevent stagflation or a combination of stagnant economy and high inflation. She noted that the Philippines spent too little against its gross domestic product in 2020 as compared to other Asian countries. She said that the country's current sources of funding, particularly the Bayanihan II law and the 2021 national budget, are insufficient to make up for the economic losses in 2020, which are estimated to be at around 3.2 trillion pesos. Around 32,000 people whose income have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic will benefit from Benguet's 160 million peso tupad allocation. Kevin C., Chief of Staff of Benguet Caretaker Representative Eric Yap, said they have started the rollout of the 2021 tupad assistance this February for the new batch of beneficiaries. The program is being implemented by the Department of Labor and Employment. In 2020, he said, the 110 million pesos tupad fund of the congressman was able to reach residents from 140 barangays spread out in the 13 municipalities. Each beneficiary received about 3,500 to 5,000 pesos cash assistance. Meanwhile, the Department of Social Welfare and Development continued the distribution of the second tranche of the SAP to 2,200 beneficiaries in Tarlac City. Mayor Christy Angeles said the SAP distribution divided into 3 days to maintain safe physical distancing and avoid COVID-19 transmission. In our business news, the Department of Trade and Industry has suspended the consolidation of orders for COVID-19 vaccines from small and medium enterprises. Secretary Ramon Lopez said there were around 10 companies that tapped DTI for the procurement of vaccines. He explained that there will be more than enough government purchases and current tripartite agreements to cover vaccination of all frontliners and workers. Big firms procured their vaccine orders through the government under a tripartite agreement with the national government and COVID-19 vaccine developer AstraZeneca. Under the A Dose of Hope initiative led by Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion, the large enterprises were able to procure 19.6 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccines. Lopez said the COVID-19 vaccine rollout will help boost consumer and business confidence. Up next, former MILF rebels receive rice aid from the government. And the Games and Amusement Board is pushing for the reinstatement of Manny Pacquiao as welterweight champion. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
The existing health and safety protocols will be followed in the observance of Ash Wednesday on February 17. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, co-chairperson of the Interagency Task Force, said the protocols imposed for last year's celebration of Ash Wednesday would be applied to this year's event. As a preventive measure against COVID-19, Catholic prelates sprinkled the blessed ash on devotees' heads instead of the traditional marking of a cross on the forehead. The Archdiocese of Manila said Catholic faithful will be allowed to burn palms at home and use the ashes to sprinkle on family members on Ash Wednesday, which officially marks the start of the Lenten season. The IATF has yet to receive any requests from the Catholic Church to ease venue capacity restrictions on Ash Wednesday. About 12,000 decommissioned combatants of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front are set to receive 16 million pesos worth of rice assistance as part of the socio-economic intervention for the former rebels. This came as a total of 106 former MILF fighters benefited from the first batch of rice assistance during simple ceremonies held at the MILF's camp Darapanan in Sultan Kudarat, Maguindanao on Wednesday. The rice assistance will benefit the rebels who were decommissioned in 2015 and 2019 to 2020 respectively. It also aims to ease the burden among them and their families who have been affected by the pandemic. Undersecretary David Diciano of the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, or OPAP, the chair of the Government Peace Implementing Panel on the Bangsamoro Peace Accord, assured beneficiaries that more assistance has yet to come. Bangsamoro Executive Secretary Abul Rauf Makakua said the same rice assistance package is scheduled to commence soon to decommissioned MILF rebels in other parts of the region. And in sports, the Games and Amusements Board, or GAB, has called on the World Boxing Association, or WDA, to explain why Manny Pacquiao was stripped off his super welterweight belt. GAB chairman Baha Mitra even said on Wednesday that his agency appealed with the WBA to give the championship back to Pacquiao. In a letter sent to WBA President Gilberto Mendoza, Mitra implied that GAB had been looking at the professional boxer's health and safety, especially amid the pandemic, including Pacquiao. He also asked for clarifications on the WBA's rules and sought for a possible bout against the newly declared super champ Yordenis Ugas of Cuba. Pacquiao won the WBA welterweight super title in 2019, but was stripped off his super champ status after being unable to defend his title throughout 2020. And in our foreign news, the United Nations Human Rights Council said it is to hold a special session on Myanmar on Friday. This as the UN office there decried the reported use of violence by security forces against demonstrators last Tuesday. Ola Almgren, UN Resident Coordinator and Humanitarian Coordinator in Myanmar, called on security forces to respect human rights and fundamental freedoms, including the right to peaceful assembly and freedom of expression. The military takeover on February 1 followed escalating tensions between the military and the government after the November 2020 elections. Politicians, journalists, and activists were arbitrarily detained after the coup. The next full session of the HRC would take place from February 22nd to March 23. A lawmaker has expressed support for the move to recognize Davao City as the chocolate capital and Davao Region as the cacao capital of the country. Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa said the city and region are deserving of the title as they house the Malagos chocolate, which bagged 7 international awards in 2019, as well as multi-awarded brand Auro Chocolates. De La Rosa said Davao Region has been producing 80% of the country's cacao produce. He said the Philippines has pioneered cacao planting in Asia, making it a respected exporter of premium quality raw cacao and chocolate today. De La Rosa co-sponsored Senate Bill number 1741, which was announced by Senator Cynthia Villar, SBN 1741, to give recognition to cacao farmers. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. President Duterte has ordered the postponement of the mandatory use of child restraint system. Quarantine restrictions in the country will remain even after COVID-19 vaccines arrive. A councilor in General Santos City is pushing for the mandatory dashcam on all public and private vehicles. And the Games and Amusement Board is pushing for the reinstatement of Manny Pacquiao as welterweight champion. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.